So a lot of people seem to think that this fall season was pretty much just a famine of any good shows and that there's just not a lot to watch. But comparing it to its previous season, I'd say this season certainly had a lot of bangers. Of course, there were the hype train shonen shows that every season has to have, like Jujutsu Kaisen, but there were also a lot of hidden gems throughout the season, like Talentless Nana and Moriarty. One of the shows in the bunch is Akudama Drive, a show that didn't really get much attraction in its first episode but soon garnered the amount of hype it really deserves. Akudama Drive to me was a breath of fresh air, and after I recently finished the last episode, I just had to talk about it. Now there won't be spoilers in this video in case you guys haven't watched it, so you're welcome, I guess. So Akudama Drive is about a certain mission in which an anonymous character tasked 5 of the most wanted criminals, or Akudama as this world calls it, to retrieve a certain objective. And when a normal civilian, our main protagonist, stumbles into this situation, she is mistaken for one of the Akudamas. But under the pressure of 5 of the most wanted criminals, she has to keep a straight face, or who knows where she could end up. And so we now follow our main protagonist caught in this mission full of twists and turns and deaths and badassery and just so many over-the-top action. So this really was a breath of fresh air for me in the sense that no other animes as of recent come to mind that has similar qualities to this show. First of all, this show is an original IP and the original animes can always go one of two ways, really good or really mediocre. But one thing you can always get from original animes is a sense of theme. Because original animes aren't adapting any source material, directors can put more of themselves into their work, not limited by the themes of the manga or whatever source material they're adapting. And I for one think Akudama Drive is leaning more on the really good side. Like, really good side. With director Taguchi Tomohisa teaming up with Kazutaka Kodaka to make this almost masterpiece of a show. Pardon me if I butchered their names. Kodaka being a person in charge of the original story for this show and is also the man behind the Danganronpa games, which shows by the way. Back in my fall season video, I briefly mentioned that this show felt so Danganronpa. Well, I guess now we know why. And I think knowing that this show is similar to Danganronpa in terms of its vibe can really enhance your viewing experience. Because even for me, I went into this show blind, but after the first episode, I just knew what type of show this was gonna be. And I think you'll seem to appreciate it more if you do. But only knowing that it's from the same guy who made Danganronpa isn't really enough. Of course, this is an anime and Danganronpa was a visual novel, so there was a little bit of compatibility that I had to factor into the show to see if it works as an anime, because we don't want to talk about Danganronpa the animation. But to my surprise, the director handled the show pretty well. Rarely has a show been action-packed and fast-paced and at the same time maintains that pace throughout its entire runtime. The story itself isn't thought-provoking. You're not gonna leave the show with a profound message because the show doesn't have that, and it knows that, and it doesn't try to be that. Instead, it knows it's an over-the-top cyberpunk dystopian action show and it does it amazingly well. The world design of its city is bonkers. The amount of detail and the art style creates this atmosphere that makes it feel really comical and over the top. The neon light that you see in the background and a lot of times is painted on the character's face builds off on that cyberpunk vibe that really gives the show some soul. Animation-wise, it's Studio Pierrot, you know what you're getting. You can clown on them however you want and how bad their production process is on adapting shows, but you can't deny the fact that they make really good animations. And again, going back to the original IP topic, since this is an original work, it's pretty hard to fuck it up. The story was well structured, perfectly paced, and nicely written. Characters are introduced into the show in the most Danganronpa fashion, and all of them are badass, and I mean all of them. Some may not seem badass at first, but the show develops them into this really likable characters and give them some really satisfying arcs. Again, they're not the deepest written characters, they're badass, but you like them and that's what matters. The soundtrack of the show, I think, is also amazing. It's so hype, and it's probably getting a little annoying comparing it to, but you can also hear a bit of Danganronpa in there. I don't really know what else to say about it. The soundtrack is just hype. The beeps and boops give me the monkey energy. Even the opening is fucking hype, and this opening is the definition of a song that grows on you. The first time I listened to it, I just thought it sounded so shit and offbeat, but after 2 more episodes, no joke, for a whole week there wasn't a day where I wouldn't listen to that song. And speaking of opening, the neon Netflix vibes and some really cool imagery, I totally dig it. I recommend you guys don't skip the opening because they do something pretty ballsy in there, and I respect what they did with it. But with nothing else in mind, that was all I had to say about Akudama Drive. I hope you guys liked this video, and for those who haven't watched the show, I hope it convince you at least to go and give this show a look, because I swear the show deserves more hype. But anyway guys, that was all. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday season. I certainly didn't spend it all day playing Genshin. But anyway, see you guys and gals. See you all in the next video.